Without much further ado, I want to welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, put that in the Q&A, and toward the end, we'll have some time to moderate those questions, and we'll let Braden have at them. But for now, I wanted to introduce you to Braden. Braden Mayer. I first met Braden about 3 years ago, where he was trying to teach us old guys how to use Chat GPT. And Braden, I think I did a pretty good job.
I'd say, yeah, you picked it up pretty quick.
But with this Rams Helping Rams program, I could think of no one better to help our graduating students. And we actually expanded the invite list to let you impart your wisdom on more Fordham Rams. So Braden is the president of Alchemic Inc., and he specializes in many things, but notably for this, artificial intelligence. And I'm going to let Braden take it and talk to you about how that can affect the job search. So go ahead, Braden. Welcome.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me. Just get my I'll have my presentation up here on the screen. So yeah, exactly like what was said. Today we're going to be talking about AI in the job market, right? So this is just going to be a informational presentation about AI's impact on job seeking. I'm going to do my best to cover this from all angles as far as I'm aware of them, right? So on the recruiting side, the hiring side, and just general like overall market forces. And definitely, if you guys have questions at any point, throw them in the Q&A. They don't even have to be about specifically the stuff I'm going over in the presentation. If you guys just have questions about AI or what I do in my role or anything at all, I'm interested. I'm interested in hearing what you guys have to say. So before we get underway, let me just do a little bit more to introduce myself, right? So I'm Braden. Hi, nice to be here. I'm a Fordham grad, and currently, yeah, I work in consulting and specifically in consulting for AI. What that winds up looking like for me day to day, more than anything, is just a whole lot of research, a whole lot of talking to relevant people in the industry about keeping my finger on the pulse of all sort of the newest technological developments, right? When new papers come out about new AI models, I'm the guy who's there reading the papers and going through the technical language and all that. And what I do with all of that information is compile it and use that to advise clients and then also advise, the CEO of my own company internally, right? Um, and and yeah, I build out workflows as well. So like I'll use AI tools to help clients and help companies building out little workflows for them to kind of just plug and play and use to solve like specific use cases. And I'm just myself and just a big AI enthusiast, sci-fi nerd. So this stuff very much intersects with where I'm just interested to begin with. So it's not just a job, it's also a passion for me. And this is a brief overview of what we're going over today, right? So I'm going to talk about the market. I'm going to talk about how recruiters are using AI. Then I'm going to pivot to you guys and talk about how job seekers are using AI these days to get ahead and sort of leverage the way that recruiters are using AI against itself, which we'll get into in a little bit. And I'll give you some, after we kind of go over the overview stuff, I'll give you some specific strategies as well. So specifically, hey, here are some tools, here are some methods, right? This is how you do the stuff that I'm kind of talking about. We'll get into the specifics there. We're going to wrap up with a couple of closing thoughts kind of about where we are, where we're going, how you can best stay prepared. And then that's when at the end, after that is when we'll open things up to the Q&A. So let's just start with a little overview of the market. And right here is this is how AI has impacted the market, generally speaking. There are so many more facets than this, but these are the four main ones that most of the other stuff kind of distill into. And the biggest one is right there, top left. And that is the use of automated screening and ATSs. Now, ATSs are applicant tracking systems, and that's not new. Applicant tracking systems have been around for a while now, and they have influenced hiring and recruiting and what have you. And for those who don't know, applicant tracking systems are sort of these databases of profiles that are compiled by employers and by recruiters when you submit your resume, when you apply for a job, when you register with a job board, anything like that, right? And it kind of logs all of your relevant skills and all of your relevant experience and keeps you logged in a database as defined by your skills, your interest, and your experience. What we're seeing more and more is now applicant tracking systems have been bolstered by the use of AI. So now it's not just a very simple bot that's combing through and looking just for specific keywords. There's AI in there as well that's making the looking for skills and the parsing of the resumes way more efficient. So these the compilation of these applicant tracking systems is something that's happening a lot faster, right? A lot more efficiently and just a lot more often now across a bunch of different hirers and recruiters in just about any market. Um, Also, you'll notice that companies are very concerned with staying ahead of the curve when it comes to AI. Uh, there's a pretty universal acknowledgement that AI it's not just the next wave, it is the current wave, right? And there's this rush for companies to kind of get on board with AI, to know what they're doing with AI, to find out how best to leverage AI before their competitors do it first and better and wind up leaving them behind. And to that point, as you'll see in this next bullet, we've seen mass AI feature rollouts, right? For everything from Spotify's AI DJ to Google's AI summary of your search result, so you don't even have to click into the pages, right? You'd be hard pressed to find a major company that doesn't have some sort of AI feature now that they're including in their wider offerings, right? So AI is just being incorporated into just about everything. And now we'll get to the kind of the scariest bullet, but it doesn't have to be that scary. We'll talk it through. There is also some downsizing and some hiring adjustments. Companies now, in the context of AI, are rethinking. They're rethinking productivity, and they're rethinking exactly how they hire and what kind of people they need. Now, I have this little statistic here that one AI expert is greater than or equal to 10 standard employees. I'm totally eyeballing that, right? There's no real translation for what one AI powered person can do compared to a standard employee, right? There's no direct translation for that. But the point does stand that there is this burgeoning understanding that a person who's empowered with AI tools, right? Someone who can use AI tools well for the variety of use cases that are available and applicable for AI tools is just on the whole, a factory of productivity in and of themselves, right? They're almost the leader of a small team, with regards to their ability to utilize all these tools. So there's a dramatic difference in efficiency when you're comparing a standard employee to an AI expert. And this is something that companies are already aware of, that hirers are already aware of, and something that people are becoming increasingly aware of. All this is to say, right, companies are very concerned with AI in a whole number of different ways, right? And here's the most important part, right? This is where we get into takeaway territory. The most important thing about all of this is that experience using AI is either an expectation or an outright qualification for most roles, whether or not that is advertised, right? That's something that's important to digest, right? It's whether or not it's advertised. It's something that is important, that is relevant to the position, and that recruiters will, in fact, select for, right? So you might not need to know like when you're looking at the job description, you might not need to know AI as part of the requirements for application. But you can bet your bottom dollar that an AI expert will get the job before you do in most cases, right? You being not an AI expert in this hypothetical scenario. But I hope that all of you will become AI experts, shortly after this presentation. But yeah, AI expertise is something that is valued very highly, is increasingly valued ever highly, and something that you should be concerning yourself with as you're thinking about what skills you want to highlight in your resume, and moreover, what experience you want to go after and get that you think is going to help you find placement and find work. Now to address the counterpoint, right? What about the companies that are anti-AI? Because they do exist. We've had a couple companies come out and be outspoken. We are anti-AI for moral or ethical reasons, right? Or some other reason. There could be any reason that a company is anti-AI. And look, those companies do exist, right? There are a number of companies that have taken an anti-AI stance. Usually those that are in creative fields, things like graphic design, like writing, obviously music, that sort of realm. But these jobs represent the minority of jobs. The vast majority of jobs that are just out there and available are at the very least open to AI, if not just pro AI, kind of out and proud. Yeah, so you'll come across these companies that are anti-AI, but predominantly most companies are for AI or open to AI, and thus all these points about garnering AI expertise stand. And I would argue that they stand anyway, even if you're a creative and you're the jobs that you're looking for in creative fields that are traditionally anti-AI. For you as an individual, it probably remains a very good idea for you to mess around with AI tools to try to gain experience using AI, if for no other reason than to know what's out there and to know what's possible and just keep tabs on this emerging and incredibly relevant technology, right? And the big disclaimer that I'll give is when you're looking for any job, research the company that you're applying to. See if they have taken a stance, either pro or anti-AI, and that will give you a better idea of how to market yourself. If you're applying to a company that's anti-AI, don't put your AI expertise front and center. But generally, if you're looking up a company and they're not outspokenly anti-AI, you probably want to highlight that same experience for all the reasons I've just gone over, right? Because it's so valuable to employers right now, and it's something that is increasingly marketable. So now let's get into how recruiters are using AI, now that we kind of understand what the forces of AI are in the market, right? And once again, we see this very, very big bullet point. I can't overstate how relevant this one is, right? They're using it for resume screening and applicant tracking systems. This is essentially an AI is going to be parsing through your resume. It's going to be looking for specific experience, for specific keywords, for specific roles, looking at the job description, comparing it to your resume, and trying to make a match between the job description and the resume. All of this info then gets logged in wider applicant tracking systems, and the ultimate sort of repercussions of this are it becomes very, very important how you decide to phrase your skills, how you decide to market yourself, how you decide to position your experience. If you're not talking about it the right way, well, you're not really putting yourself in a great position to make it through this sort of first round of cuts, as it were, because the first eyes on your resume are not going to be human eyes by, just statistically, they're going to be AI eyes, and they're going to be looking at it a little bit differently. Recruiters are also using AI for job posting and sourcing. So this kind of means that even the job descriptions that you guys might see on LinkedIn, on your board, on whatever job board you use, wherever you're looking to find work, those could very well be AI generated as well. So it becomes extra important to pay extra close attention, to do research that's backing up all of this stuff so that you're prepared when you get into the interview, because it's possible that job postings don't always, this isn't a blanket statement, but it's possible that job postings don't always accurately represent the company or the job, because more and more of them we're seeing are AI generated. So it's important to do your own research to back this stuff up. They also use it for sourcing, meaning you might in the near future, some of you maybe have already, get reached out to by an AI recruiter, by someone. They'll just have one name. It'll be, Claire at whatever. Claire at whatever will have read your LinkedIn profile, this being a completely artificially intelligent agent, and offering you a job. The same way that an applicant tracking system or a resume trawler might read your experience and think you qualified for something else. So you might, we'll see recruiters reach out to people with AI. And then they are also using AI for interviews and candidate assessment, right? Now, that's obviously a pretty broad term, but effectively, they're using AI to better get insight into a candidate's experience and qualifications for the role in ways that sort of transcend just looking at the resume and seeing if you're qualified just based on skills and experience, right? I'm talking about things like AI video interviewing. So there are tools out there like HireVue, for example, that will actually analyze the interviewees' facial expressions, their speech, and their tone, and kind of quantify that on a scale, or qualify that with specific adjectives like passionate or assertive or confident, or on the flip side, right? Meek, timid, shy, lacking passion, dispassionate. That's the word. So you'll have another set of eyes on you that are effectively digitalized that will kind of be making snap judgments about what kind of person you are, moving away now from what your written experience is. Also, things like chatbot recruiters, we kind of went over that in the last point, where there is effectively a recruiter who is artificially intelligent and will reach out to you on behalf of a company. So we've seen more and more of that. And then skills-based AI testing, which I think is probably the coolest application of AI in hiring. There are platforms like Codility and Pymetrics. That will offer companies tests that are meant to assess a given candidate for a position, right? To assess their technical and soft skills. So especially for things like coding, having an AI generate a coding problem and giving that coding problem to a candidate as part of the interview and judging them on how they solve that coding problem. And then judging soft skills too. And this is sort of getting into more of the pattern recognition and tone analysis that the AI interviewing does, or that an AI interviewer would do. And again, this is sort of compiling all this information about the way that you answer questions, not just what those answers are, and in kind of continuing to populate this profile with not just your experience, but also what type of person you are as per the AI's judgment. So we're seeing AI in the hiring process mostly in these ways, with the big one again being with resume screening and applicant tracking systems. Now, here the burning question, right? Do all companies use AI to hire? And the short answer is not yet. The long answer is, well, they will soon, right? We have some statistics here, right? Over 70% of companies are expected to use AI for hiring by the end of 2025. Right now, just for some context in that number, that means using AI during the hiring process, but after the candidate screening process. So you look at this next statistics: 82% of companies use AI to screen resumes. That's obviously the overwhelming majority of companies are using AI to screen resumes and to populate applicant tracking systems. These numbers are different because this is sort of the pre-interviewing phase where you're getting screened and they're making a determination about whether or not you should continue to be considered, versus this 70% number. Now we're getting into AI in the interviewing process. That could mean AI video interviews. That could mean skills-based AI tests, sort of the stuff that we were covering in the last point on the last slide. So that's how these two statistics are different. In both cases, though, it's a majority and it's growing. Already 40% use AI to communicate with applicants. Now we're getting into the AI chatbot, AI recruiter territory. 64% use AI for evaluations and tests during the interview process already. 23% use AI to conduct interviews, with an additional 19% planning to start by the end of the year. And a whopping 81% plan to invest in AI solutions to enhance their recruiting process. And that number is sourced from a bunch of companies that are already using AI in their workflows and now expanding AI to how they recruit and how they hire. All this is to say, right? AI is an incredibly relevant market force right now when it comes to job seeking and into recruiting, right? So you should be prepared for it. Now, how do you get prepared, right? Well, this next section will pertain right to you guys, right? So this is how job seekers are using AI and best leveraging AI to get the best results in their job searching. Right? Before we get into that, I do want to give a disclaimer, because I'm going to take a very, very AI positive approach here. I'm going to suggest that you guys use AI. I'm going to encourage you to explore AI tools. But for me to take that very, very positive stance, I have to give you a word of warning first, right? AI tools are not perfect, and they are not panaceas. They are not cure-alls. They will make mistakes. They are not good at everything, right? So above all else, AI is best thought of as a tool to facilitate various efforts, not as a replacement for those efforts. Okay, that's a very, very important point as we proceed. So I'm going to recommend you guys a bunch of tools. I'm going to recommend that you get out there and experiment. The human element of oversight and checking your work and making sure there's no mistakes, and two, of making sure that you're putting yourself into the work that you're producing with AI, that remains very, very important and is sort of the asterisk on every single thing I'm going to tell you that's positive about using AI. So before we get into the nitty gritty, right, you guys should be aware of this. I'm sure you've heard this song sung by many people before, but I would not be doing my due diligence if I didn't mention it here. So now getting into how you as job seekers can best leverage AI, right, in your job seeking efforts. This breaks down mostly into two categories. The categories are, as you can see on the screen, right, exploiting AI systems and using AI yourself. Now, when I'm talking about exploiting AI systems, what I mean is cultivating an awareness of the tools that recruiters are already using and will continue to use, and more recruiters will use, right, learning how those tools work, how they function, and positioning ourselves to best take advantage of those tools, to all of a sudden leverage those tools for ourselves. The other half of this is using AI yourself. Now, this takes a number of forms, right? I mean this in the sense of use AI yourself because there are specific AI tools that can help you in job seeking. Things like resume reformatters, interview coaches, all stuff that we're going to get into in more detail in a little bit. But also exploring AI tools in a more general sense, right? Making sure that you have a Chat GPT account, a Google Gemini account, that you use Perplexity, that you're using AI tools, you're working AI tools sort of into your day to day, and you're becoming experienced and you're becoming knowledgeable about not just how to use these tools to further your own ends, but also generally speaking, what does the landscape of AI tools look like? What are they currently capable of? And because that experience is not just useful for you as an individual trying to navigate the market and pick a career and whatever it is that you're deciding to do with your professional development, but it's also very, very relevant in that all that experience and all that knowledge is marketable. It's something that employers want to see, that recruiters are enthusiastic about hiring for. So you're at once making yourself more attractive to recruiters while also just getting a bunch of knowledge that is going to serve you well one way or another. So exploiting AI systems 101 pretty much breaks down into these three categories, right? What are we doing? We're optimizing our resumes for AI and applicant tracking systems. We're hacking AI-powered interviews. And all of this is to say we're staying ahead of AI-based rejections. So what does all this mean? As we went over, AI-powered applicant tracking systems filter and rank resumes before humans even see them. So the AI will scan for specific skills, for job titles, for roles, qualifications in job postings, and then check all of those keywords against your resume, which is to say that if you phrase your experience differently, right? Let's just say you phrase it how it authentically resonates with you, right? You're not taking this sort of ATS focused view when you're writing your resume, right? And just writing it how it comes to you naturally in a way you think sounds professional. Well, that difference in phrasing, right? Your omission of a certain keyword in talking about experience that you have, but maybe don't market effectively, you might just wind up getting rejected. And that's where we get back to the AI-based rejections. You will get filtered out before a human with sort of critical thinking skills has a chance to read through your experience and make a determination about that experience as if you are well suited for a given role. So optimizing our resumes for, we'll call them digital eyes, is something that is absolutely key in the job seeking process now more than ever, because the first eyes on your resume and arguably the most important eyes, because they'll determine whether you move forward or not at the very first checkpoint, it's those digital eyes that are going to make or break us, not human eyes. The next thing here, right? What is hacking AI powered interviews? I'm not talking about actually hacking, right? This is just snappy language. But because we're knowing increasingly for interviews that we're having an AI also on our interviews with us, or that if it's pre-recorded, that an AI could be going over the video. Well, we need to now pay extra special attention to our facial expressions, to our tone of voice, to our speech patterns. So it's not just about our answers to interview questions. It's also very much about how we answer. And so in a lot of ways, the tips for successful AI-powered interviews align very closely with the tips for successful interviews, period. It just becomes this extra layer of awareness will make sure that you're really schooling yourself in your practice interviews to make sure that you are presenting in a way that helps you, not hurts you. Because again, an AI is designed to just reduce your whole complicated person into, a handful of adjectives. Whereas a person, obviously, will give you more benefit of the doubt, exercise more critical thinking. Yeah, so it just becomes all the good interview stuff that you guys are, I'm sure, already know in practice becomes all the more important when you introduce AI. And so all of these things help you stay ahead of AI-based rejections, right? We're trying to get to a person, right? That's the goal with job seeking right now, is getting beyond the AI screeners, beyond the AI filters, and getting your stuff to a person, right? Because AI is doing a lot of rejecting upfront before we even get to someone who can exercise some critical thinking and who we can kind of connect with on a human level. Right. So this is, as you can see, right, exploiting AI systems and using AI yourself completely go hand in hand. It's like fighting fire with fire. Uh, and using AI yourself specifically for job seeking, there's so many more facets than just these four on the screen, but these are the most important four when it comes to, hey, I'm a job seeker. How can I use AI to help me go get a job, to make this process easier for myself, right? We've got AI optimization tools. So this process of making sure your resume is optimized for applicant tracking, for AIs and for applicant tracking systems, right? There is an AI that can help you do that. There are a bunch of AIs that can help you do that. So those tools are a great place to start. Using AI can also help you tailor cover letters. Now, in your job seeking, I'm sure that you guys have experienced having to write a cover letter. Now, if most people I have found typically fall into one of two categories as far as cover letters are concerned. Either they have the same cover letter that they make a couple of adjustments to and sort of send that out to a whole bunch of companies, adjusting a couple of the finer details for based on what job they're applying for or what company they're applying to. Or they write the whole thing from scratch every time. Well, in both cases, right, the former case, the first case, that creates a very, very impersonal cover letter. And the second case, it creates a more personal cover letter, yes, but there's a lot of time and energy dedicated to writing that cover letter. And if you're really in the throes of job seeking, odds are, you're applying to dozens of jobs all the time. This represents a ton of effort, right? A ton of work, a ton of time, a ton of effort to rewrite all of these cover letters for each and every position. So you can use AI almost like a writing partner to help you write up bespoke cover letters for each and every job that you apply to. And I'm not suggesting that you just let AI write your whole cover letter for you, because I think you lose a very important human touch that differentiates you from other applicants who are for sure doing exactly that. But it is to say that this is a very valuable writing partner and something that can save you a lot of time by creating outlines, by creating like example paragraphs for you to modify, right? It can just take a lot of the legwork out of the cover letter drafting process. So I'll recommend it for that purpose here. You can also use AI to help find jobs, right? So lots of job boards already have AI integrated into their job search tools. LinkedIn does, ZipRecruiter does. There are, I think Monster does now as well. So there are a whole number of existing job platforms you're probably already using that have an AI component sort of wrapped into them that's working under the surface. So just use those tools. The more you use AI, and this goes for essentially all AI, the more that you use AI, the better AI gets at serving you specifically. So make sure you're just engaging with those tools and you're using them. Also, as far as AI-powered job searching, AI is a great thing to use for cold outreach. So I'm sure you guys have heard, if you've attended any other workshops or tried to improve your networking skills, I'm sure you've heard that cold outreach is actually a half decent tool at expanding your network, at improving your access to opportunity. But cold outreach isn't always easy. So being able to automate cold outreach by, going into whatever your chatbot of choice is, whether that's ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Llama or whatever, and sort of giving them some context about the company, some context about you, and some context about the person you're reaching out to and the potential position, then you can draft up these cold outreach messages, emails, whatever they are, very, very quickly. And again, it just removes reasons for you to not do that because it makes it incredibly, incredibly easy to do. You can also use AI to research companies and opportunities, right? So we already talked about AI researching companies that you apply to before you apply. Generally, it's just good. Forget the AI stuff, right? That's just good practice. But there are so many really, really powerful AI research tools. And that's for me personally, that is my favorite AI use case, is using it for knowledge acquisition, for knowledge discovery, as a tutor, to research stuff. There are so many great research tools out there. And this will give you a ton of information about a given company, or about the nature of a given market, right? So, let's say you are in a place where you don't really know what you want to do, right? Or you have an idea, but you need to narrow it down. You need to find some focus, some direction. You can, one of the things you can do just to help frame your own thinking is pop into ChatGPT. Again, I'll just throw that one out there. This works for all the major large language models, but ChatGPT is just an accessible one, right? And say, hey, this is my resume. This is my experience. These are my skills, what I think I'm good at. This is my passion. I want to work in this industry, but I'm not sure. Where should I start looking? What companies could be hiring? What are some roles that I'd be a good fit for? And it can start to point you in the right direction. And there are specific AI tools that do this stuff too. So you don't have to use like a jack of all trades, like a ChatGPT, although ChatGPT works very well for this. But there are specific tools out there that are designed for specifically this purpose that I'm going to share with you in a couple of slides. So yeah, that's another great use case for AI is for research of both companies and opportunities and helping you find some direction during the application process. And again, I'm very AI positive, guys. So I will continue to encourage you to use AI, right? So don't be afraid to explore the landscape of AI tools. So not just beyond the ones that I'm going to share with you today and that I already have, the handful that I've already shared. Keep looking for more AI tools. Engage with AI as often as you can. The reason for this, right? It's a win-win, right? So it's twofold. The reason for this is twofold. One, because you will just become more productive the more AI tools you use. And again, this is not a replacement for effort. It's to bolster your effort. But you'll be surprised at what just a little bit of effort and oversight will yield if you learn to use these AI tools effectively, right? Everyone in here can be as productive as like 10 of their peers if they become an AI expert, right? So not only will you just become more productive and that will just improve your day-to-day functioning, but that knowledge and that AI expertise is so marketable, guys. If you put all of these skills in your resumes, this will stand out to employers. And that could mean everything from like going and looking at specific AI certifications. There are tons of programs available through some pretty reputable sources like Microsoft and Google. How they have AI boot camps where you can get an honest to God certification to boast on your resume. But generally, just being able to use this stuff and claiming it as skills or experience the same way you would claim the Google Suite or the Microsoft Office Suite or specific programs like InDesign or Photoshop, right? Just being able to name these AI tools and claim mastery or some level of competence in using them is very, very marketable, guys. So that is, again, I will always encourage you to learn as much as you can and to experiment with as much as you can. So now here we go. This is the meat and potatoes. Now we're getting into these specific strategies. We've talked a lot about how to do a lot of different stuff or generally what is being done. Now let's get into how exactly this stuff works. So where we're going to start is this is the most important one, guys. This is the most important one, right? If you have one takeaway from this whole experience, from this presentation, it should be, hey, I should be using AI, and learning about AI and taking that upon myself to just get more familiar with these tools and learn about what's out there. If you take away two things, the second thing should be this. The second thing should be about applicant tracking systems and what optimization for applicant tracking systems ultimately really means, right? So this is how to make your experience compelling for AI agents, right? The key here is read the job description and use the exact same terminology from the job description in your resume. What this also means, yes, we're going to be making modifications to our resume, minor modifications, mind you, not significant ones, but we are going to be making minor modifications to our resume for every job that we apply to, guys, for every job that we apply to. We're going to be making sure that when we're talking about our experience, we're using specific keywords from the job description so that when it comes time for our resume to be looked over by an applicant tracking system or an AI trawler, right, that the AI is picking out the exact words that we have in our resume that coincide with the job, right? So that means getting a little bit creative, right, with how you're marketing your experience. But also you're kind of getting handed the answer key alongside the test, right? As long as you're looking at the job description and you're making sure to kind of mirror the language, you'll be doing okay, right? It's for sure going to be moving you in the right direction as far as resume optimization, right? So because AI stands for specific skills, job titles, and qualifications, we need to use exact phrases from job descriptions in order to match what they're algorithmically selecting for. This also has to do with how we format our resumes, guys. So there are tons of different schools of thought out there about resume formatting, and I've seen that making sure that your resume is stylistically appealing will help you stand out, and that's something that remains true. Uh, Particularly though if you're dealing with human recruiters and humans who are going to be reading your resume and judging whether or not you're qualified, right? We are not at this point in the game, right? We're not making an impression on a human. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to make an impression on a robot. And the robot does not care about your beautiful layout, beautiful though it may be, right? Because what you're ultimately doing as far as the AI is concerned is potentially obfuscating the real stuff that should be standing out, which is just the letter of your experience and these specific keywords, right? The more elements that are on your resume, whether that's columns or lines or graphics or whatever, the more of those that there are, the more chance there is for an AI to screw up while it's reading it and miss. Like you could have optimized your keywords perfectly, but because your format is a little bit too, or I'll say not simple enough, right? Not simplistic enough, it will miss it because it will read an image and that will bug the whole software out, right? So we're talking simple layouts, guys. So no fancy graphics, no fancy columns, no fancy images. And we're also going to be using standard fonts, which again, you guys should probably just be doing that anyway for your resumes, but it's doubly important now that we're bringing AI into the mix. So standard fonts and standard sections, right? So no additional sections beyond like work experience, skills, and education. This isn't an exhaustive list, right? You can theoretically have another section beyond what I'm talking about here, but don't really go too far beyond the scope of these three things. If you have something that's, very, very relevant, something like certifications, that's fine as its own category, but try to keep it as simple as you guys can. You want fewer categories, fewer elements, not more. And then we finally come to specific AI resume optimization tools. And I'm going to give you the big three here, right? The three best ones that I have used that I have seen, right? That's JobScan, Resume Worded, and Resi. All three of these do pretty much the same thing. You upload your resume, you upload a job description, and it will do this work of checking the job description against your resume and making sure that nothing is missing here, right? And if something is missing, these tools will highlight these missing things and say, rephrase your experience this way, or include this word, or ask you about some other element of your experience for additional context that you guys can then work back into the resume. And it's a bit like name dropping, right? Name dropping these specific skills or bits of experience or roles, role titles, whatever it's going to be. And again, all of this is in the aim of boosting your compatibility with AI-powered applicant tracking systems. And again, say it with me now, avoiding AI-based rejection, right? We're trying to get to a human. That's our goal right now. So take a second. If you guys want to write down the names of these tools, I'll leave this up for another second. But we're going to get to the next thing right now. So JobScan, Resume Worded, Resi. Also, and I'll say this again at the end, but you can, if you have like subscriptions to chat, if you're using another AI tool, if you have an AI of choice, you can use that for this stuff as well. It's not bespoke in the same way this other stuff is, right? These three programs are made specifically to do this stuff. But ChatGPT is not bad at it, right? Llama is not bad at it. Claude is not bad at it, right? So if you're already paying for that, or you already have an account, or that's just what's familiar to you, you don't want to make accounts on these other websites, you don't want to pay for services, whatever the case, you can it's not going to be perfect necessarily. It might be perfect, but there's more room for error. But these are still fine companions and fine consultants as you're moving through the resume optimization process. Especially if you say at the beginning, "Hey, this is what you need to select for." Find similarity between the job description and my resume. Look for specific words. All right, moving on now. What's next? Hacking AI-powered interviews, right? And this is really just the story of learning the AI's biases and performing accordingly. And you guys are going to find as I'm going through this, a lot of this just coincides with good interviewing, right? The factors that AI video interviewers analyze are tone and enthusiasm, clarity in word choice, facial expressions, and eye contact. It's going to use these factors to draw conclusions about what kind of individual you are. Are you an outspoken individual? Are you an assertive individual? Are you a confident individual? Are you more submissive? Are you meeker? Do you have passion? Do you not have passion? Right? And obviously, there are a million, when it comes to real people, there are a million shades of gray here, but that's not the job. The job of the AI is to turn those shades of gray into black and white. So it becomes doubly important when we're interviewing that we are making sure that we're confident, that we're engaged, we're concise when we speak, we're focusing on relevant talking points, we're trying to get the best eye contact that we can in a virtual interview, right? That we indicate that we are passionate about the position, because all of these things will get compiled into text and delivered to the recruiter, right? Who's ultimately the one making the decisions about whether or not they want to interview you themselves. So again, it's important. We're performing now for an incredibly, I guess we'll say an incredibly cynical interviewer, right? We want to, and we need to school ourselves so that we impress this person or this entity who wants to kind of squeeze us into categories and assign us adjectives, put us in boxes, so to speak, right? Also, like I said before, use AI to research. This is, again, I'm biased. It's my favorite use case. Absolutely my favorite use case for AI. It's what I use AI for the most day to day. It's for research and knowledge discovery. So even just your basic chatbots like ChatGPT and Perplexity. Perplexity is my favorite. If you guys aren't using, you could never use Google again and just use Perplexity and you'd be better for it, right? So Perplexity is one of my favorite tools. So shout out Perplexity. If you guys aren't using that, definitely get on that wave. But these are both things that can summarize recent news from a company, the company's values, leadership. You can feed them articles. They'll summarize the articles for you. You can build out entire databases on companies that you're interested in a fraction of the time that it would take you to do that if you were just out there doing all these Google searches and compiling that research yourself. It's always a good idea, too, before an interview to ask about a company and learn about what relevant challenges they're facing right now, because that will help you then tailor your interview answers toward this sort of, being an answer to some of the problems the company's facing, or at the very least, an enthusiastic ally as that company is going through that stuff. And now to get to the AI tool part of this, right? There are AI interview coaches. So now we can actually practice with this super judgmental AI who is going to, again, put us in boxes, assign us adjectives, all that stuff. So my three favorite tools for this are Udly, Interviews by AI, and Huru AI. Google has one as well. It's not nearly as good. And these programs do exactly what the AI interviewer programs will do, with some variation between the tools, but generally all of them will be analyzing your speech, analyzing your body language, and then giving you some feedback about how you can improve on that interview. So let's say, you were super confident, but your passion didn't come through. Well, that it will tell you exactly that you need to, and then for most of these tools, it will give you some feedback on how specifically to input more passion, right? It won't just be, it'll be some actionable feedback, not just, oh, you weren't passionate enough, try to be more passionate. It'll tell you, hey, talk more about how your personal interest connects to the role, say more about that as a talking point. So you can get some pretty good feedback from these AI-powered coaches. And now you're practicing for the same sort of audience that you'll have once the rubber meets the road and you're in on the real thing with an AI-powered interview. Again, those tools are Udly, Interviews by AI, and Huru AI. And now the final point for how we can actually be using AI tools in the workforce, right? Or rather in job seeking, you can use AI to find opportunities. So that means using AI for research to find roles that suit your passion and your experience, right? Now, here's my list of what I think are the best AI powered job boards right now. LinkedIn AI job search is up there, right? I like LinkedIn a lot. And I'm sure all of you will like this too, because I imagine most of you are on LinkedIn already. So that job search has AI features now. They kind of silently rolled this stuff out in the last couple of months, and it's pretty good. And this, the next point I'm about to make goes for all of these AI job boards. The more that you use them, the better that they get. So they will be familiar with your experience. They'll be familiar with what your interests are, what filters you're putting on the job. So what kind of jobs interest you, and then be more proactive about recommending you stuff. Yeah, and the other elements on this list are TLHQ. I'm going to skip this third one for a second. ZipRecruiter AI matching, and then finally back to JobScan Career Change Tool. Now, I'm going to give a special shout out to JobScan's Career Change Tool, because this helps you find opportunities that you might not even have conceived of. If you remember before, I was talking about using ChatGPT to sort of talk about your passion and your experience and sort of marry that to finding a role, a specific role. Well, that JobScan does this, as that's like the big thing that the career change tool does. You put in your resume, you talk to it a little bit about what you're interested in, and then it will recommend you positions and industries that suit your experience and interest. So it's sort of just input, output, just very simply, neatly like that. All of these job boards and stuff pretty much work the same way. Like I said before, these how to use skills are pretty consistent, or the instructions rather are pretty consistent across all the tools that I'm mentioning here. Is uploading your resume, then it's saving and interacting with recommended jobs, and making sure that you use filters to sort of guide your search, and continuously reiteratively improve the kinds of results and recommendations that you get. I will also give a special shout out, right? Don't, in a back to basics sort of fashion, don't forget about your jack of all trades LLMs, large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Llama, and Perplexity, right? You can always be using an AI as your co-pilot. You don't need to go out and find a specific tool. You already have access and an awareness of tools that can be super useful for these purposes. So don't forget about these basic things. All right, we're going to start to wrap up now and just generally talk about what's next and how you guys should prepare. And you guys are going to, this is not going to be shocking based on everything that I've said so far. Organizations all over are adopting more and more AI practices, are including more and more AI features, and are looking to hire more and more AI experts. What does this mean? Well, for better or worse, it means that AI is here to stay. It is not a fad. It is not a flash in the pan. This is the next wave. And yes, it will mean disruption, but it will also mean opportunity. Right. So traditional markets, traditional methods of hiring are going to be disrupted. Right. That might mean that where you're interested in working might have different criteria for hiring than they did, a year ago. This might mean that places that were hiring a lot are hiring less. This might mean that places that were hiring less are hiring more. But again, there is opportunity here for people who are savvy enough to go and educate themselves enough to seize it. Again, this is why I keep telling you guys, you should be using AI tools and learning about AI constantly, all the time, as much as you can, because that is the next wave of who is going to be hired, are the people who can use AI better than everybody else, right? AI is already kind of this is going to be a little bit of an overstatement, but AI is already as smart as your average worker, right? So how do we become smarter than that? Well, we become smart enough to use 10 different AI tools. And now all of a sudden I'm managing a team of 10, right? That's not exactly how it works. AI is not a one-to-one replacement for people, right? We're not there yet. I don't know if we will get there. But this point about use AI because it will make you more efficient and make you get jobs over people who can't use AI, right? That point will stand, guys. So that's the biggest takeaway from this, is just learn how to use AI. And it has all these use cases that you guys can use day to day, even if it has nothing to do with your work, right? You can use it for content generation, ideation, data analysis and summarization, language translation and transcription, project planning and organization, research and knowledge discovery, code generation, and software development. So, and that last point, guys, this was really where AI can start to expand your horizons. So case in point, right? I was building a workflow for a project, for a client of mine. And I don't know code, guys. I don't know Python. I don't know any coding languages. I've never coded before. But with I think at the time too, it was ChatGPT 4. It might even been 3.5. But just with this AI copilot who knew how to code, I was able to code an entire app inside of a week with Python, a language I do not speak, just because I had the stick-to-itiveness to continue to use the program even when I got frustrated. So, and something like 25% actually of new code is being written by AI at organizations like Google, and then it's just reviewed by mid-level software engineers. Guys, the sky is the limit with AI tools. It's just a matter of learning how to use them. So again, I really, really recommend that you guys go out and educate yourselves and play with as many tools as you can. Yeah. So experiment, explore, see what you can do. Most definitely. That's the note I want to leave you guys with. If you take nothing else away from this presentation, it's that you guys should be playing with AI as often as you can. This is where I would open it up to the Q&A with our remaining time. I'm not sure. I can't see if we got any questions, but
So I'll read you some questions that we got, Braden.
yeah, beautiful.
How does AI quantify the pattern recognition and tone recognition into adjectives during these AI interviews? How does it make those judgments about the kind of person you are? Like, how was it trained to do this? What is it based on?
Yeah. So there are a lot of questions in that one question, right? So I'll break it down. So we have to answer how it does it and what was it trained on, right? These are the two main factors I think of this question. So how it does it is by literally overlaying a facial map onto your face and looking at your face at your body position as you're going through the interview. So are you looking away from the camera a lot? Are you blinking a lot? Are you looking down? How often are you looking at the camera? Right? All of these metrics, these observable, quantifiable things are then sort of extrapolated into adjectives. So for example, if I'm someone who is never breaking eye contact with the camera or only seldom breaking eye contact with the camera, they would say that I'm confident, that I'm engaged, right? If I'm someone who's looking away, they take away the opposite, right? That I'm not engaged, that I'm not confident. And this is not right. This isn't fair. This isn't actually necessarily an accurate representation of who you are as a candidate or otherwise. But this is the role of AI in AI interviews, is that it is doing this sort of, it's distilling these shades of gray and complexity into simplicity and into black and white, right? How was it trained to do this is the other question. There is this is getting sort of into the technical details of how models are trained, but essentially one of the most successful way of training models is reinforcement learning. And this is sort of where this comes from. So pretty much AI was shown a bunch of videos of people speaking and then asked to make judgments about those videos. And then a human intervener will give the AI some context about those videos. So it'll be something along the lines of, an AI will watch a video about a YouTube personality and, we'll say, oh, I think that the personality was confident for these reasons. And a human reinforcer will then jump in and say, yes, you're right. They were confident because they maintained eye contact. They spoke in an even tone. They spoke at a measured pace, right? And will effectively give the AI some context on what it's just seen and either confirm whatever the output that the AI had, whatever the takeaway was on the AI side, either confirm that and say, yes, you're on the right track and these are the reasons why, or will deny that and say, no, actually they weren't confident and here's how you can tell. And this is sort of a recursive loop of continuing to reinforce whatever the takeaway is, whether that be positively or negatively.
Great, thank you. Would you use the AI tools you listed in this presentation to create business content, or would you use others to create business content?
So the tools that I have here aren't, I mean, with the exception of the ones that I've named as, like the LLMs that I've named. So the standard suite of flagship models that you guys probably were already aware of before you logged onto this presentation, right? So that's your ChatGPTs and your Geminis and your Claudes, your Llamas, right? Just the stock standard stuff, right? Not so much the specialized tools. I would use all of those, yeah, most definitely for creating business content. These other tools make more sense as far as recommending than they do for content generation specifically. I could see though someone making content of kind of walking someone through how to use these tools and giving some feedback on which tools to use, sometimes which to avoid, whatever the case. So the tools that I named in those kind of three specific breakdowns are not great for generating content themselves, but could for sure be the subject of content if you wanted to go down that road and talk about and make content about AI in business.
Great, thank you. Here's a good one. Some job boards will ask if you agree to let your application be reviewed by AI versus a human. What is the beneficial choice in this case?
So it's a hard question to answer. And ultimately, that's the kind of thing that depends. It will ultimately depend on the given organization. I will tell you that the whole notion that you're going to still have a choice, in a year's time, let's say, I don't know if I would count on that. So I almost think that the question is kind of a moot point because we should just be doing this stuff with our resumes anyway. I think to be able to fall back on the question and say, no, I don't want an AI to look at my resume sort of enables us not to be AI aware and not to make these changes to our resumes. So I would say it's a moot point anyway, because you should be expecting all the time that there will be an AI going over your stuff. And even if it's not, even if you're finding companies that now aren't using AI, it's my prediction being in this position that I'm in and being kind of close to the ground with the research and seeing how the hiring goes. My prediction is that pretty much all companies are going to be doing this sooner or later. So what's the beneficial choice in this case? I mean, if you actually say no and it doesn't just outright reject you and you get to a human, well then yeah, like that is beneficial. But saying no, I don't want my stuff to be reviewed by AI may sooner or later just become tantamount to, hey, just don't consider my application because I object to it on these grounds. Um, so that would be what I would say. I think you have to always expect that your stuff is going to get reviewed by AI. And if you've already set yourself up to be optimized and to be read correctly by the applicant tracking system, by AI trawlers, uh, then you should just be allowing an AI to go through your stuff anyway, because you've prepared for this, right? It doesn't have to be scary if you prepare for it.
Right. It's kind of like, test optional for getting into college.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you
Exactly.
don't have to submit the test scores, but it's probably better if you do. And if you don't, it just means you're not getting good test scores.
Right. And what's more, eventually it might become even more like terms of service. You know what I mean? Like you to use, let's say, a given job board, you have to be okay with AI going through all your stuff. I could see something like that on the horizon for sure.
Right. Here's one. If I am brand new to using AI, which application should I start with for dabbling? Also, I have an Android phone. Is Google Gemini a better assistant than Siri?
Oh man. I want to respond to the second part of the question first. Google Gemini, I have an Android phone as well. Google Gemini, and I love AI. I'm super AI forward, guys. Google Gemini drives me up the wall because I find that Google Gemini is an incredibly powerful AI assistant, no doubt, right? It knows a ton of stuff. It has great access to the internet. It can produce a ton of really good deliverables. It even has live chat, right, where I can just talk right to it and it can respond like we're having natural conversation. So using it for stuff like research and knowledge discovery and whatever, that is very, very good. Is it better than Siri? I think for that purpose, yes, definitely it is. Um, but as far as Google Gemini as an assistant on your phone, the way you'd want one to work, as someone who can play your music or change what's going on your TV or send a message, anything like that, it's not there yet. It has a lot of problems with understanding kind of device commands. Now, I have every confidence that we're going to get to a point where Gemini on Android phones is just far and away the best assistant that's out there. We're not there yet. I'm endlessly frustrated by my Gemini because that's most of my use case is using it for um device management stuff, less so for AI companion stuff or AI chatbot stuff. Um yeah, so that would be my 2 cents on that as someone who is kind of in the same boat and using Gemini on my Android phone. Uh and I think the first part of the question was if you're a complete beginner, where do you start? if you're a complete beginner, my recommendation to you is get a okay, there are three things you should be using at the beginning, right? And this is if you don't want to get into this is making it as easy as possible. If you don't want to get into open source, downloading models yourself, training your own models, all that, because this rabbit hole goes deep, guys, goes very, very deep. So if you're a complete beginner, you want to keep it simple and you want to just start branching out and expanding, start with these three tools. That's ChatGPT, make an account. I pay for it. Don't pay for the $200 a month one. You're never going to use it. Pay for like I would recommend paying for the 10 to 20, whatever it is, the base layer subscription, because you'll get a lot of value out of it. So ChatGPT, Perplexity, this is like a search engine, can replace your Google search, and it has sources for everything. So you know where the information is coming from. It doesn't just print out an answer. Perplexity for searching. And then Notebook LM is my third pick. Now, Notebook LM is where when you're doing research, when you're trying to learn about something, it's the place you aggregate all your research. You can upload all this stuff, all your sources, whether it's a YouTube video, it's an article online, it's just text that you've copy pasted. You upload all your sources into this thing called Notebook LM, and then you've created a chatbot that's trained up on all of those sources. So you can ask it whatever question you want about your sources, and it will be able to give you back an answer with citations, so you know where and what source it got it from. You can even do stuff like generate a 20-minute podcast with two hosts, all AI generated, about whatever it is that you're researching and whatever the content of your sources are. And so it's absolutely unbelievable for knowledge discovery. So I would say get familiar with these tools, figure out what they can do, do stuff like make pictures, make images with ChatGPT, because it can do that. Now, a lot of people don't even realize it can do that, but you can make images with ChatGPT now and edit them in ChatGPT. So get familiar with those three tools. Those are going to be your bread and butter. Those are the things I use literally every day, multiple times a day. And then once you're ready to start branching out with that, start looking into AI video generation tools. So Runway is a great place to start there. Incredibly effective, close to the ground, cost effective, if that's something that's of concern to you guys. So Runway is great for video and image generation. 11 Labs is unbelievable for text to speech, transcription, translation. And then Suno and Udio are great for generating music, right? So this is just that's like the creative suite of tools. Those last three. The first three are all for productivity, for knowledge acquisition, for research. They will help you discover a lot of AI tools and get a sense of, hey, what can we do with them? And then these later three are more kind of just for fun, but there are business cases for these as well. So you can, look into those tools, see what's possible, how good the output is. And again, just continue to accrue this knowledge, accrue this expertise, get good at using all these tools. The higher order stuff, once you've kind of checked all those boxes, the platform there are two platforms I could recommend after that. Those are Zapier and Make. Both of these will let you use AI as part of longer coding sort of things. And again, I don't code, guys. I do not code. I don't know coding language. But even me, someone who's beyond a complete novice, right? I'm able to create workflows in AI that automate processes for me. So for example, whenever OpenAI posts a new update to their blog, right, to their research blog, I have an AI bot waiting and ready to see that update, to digest all that information, and then to send me a message in Discord and in Slack saying, hey, this new article just broke. Here's a quick summary of the article. And then I look in a spreadsheet and it's put the article, the date that it was published, the link, and the description of the article, the little summary of all AI generated, right there in a spreadsheet for me, so I can reference everything that I'm meant to know, because I stay on the cutting edge of all the AI developments. That's the kind of the experience and the value that I bring to my clients and bring to my company. I built that whole thing out without code in a platform called Make. That's make.com. So you can. The rabbit hole goes deep, guys, but that would be the trajectory that I would practice with if I were you and I was someone who was genuinely interested. Start with those first three platforms, then move on to the creative stuff, then start seeing what you can do once you start combining tools and sort of meshing things together.
Well, thank you, Braden. We could go on all night. There's 8 more questions, but that would take another hour. So why don't you, if it's okay with you, why don't you give your email address? And,
Yeah, well, how about right here?
okay,
We've yeah, you guys everybody feel free to contact me wherever you can find me. You know, if you want to reach out on LinkedIn, I'm happy to connect with you there. If you want to reach out via email, these are my two emails that you guys can reach me at. Obviously, first one's my business email. Second one is my Fordham email. So by all means, guys, I'm happy. I could talk about this stuff like the day is long. So if you have any questions, if you need any tips, if you have any cool ideas, you know, I'm happy to have, you know, extended conversations with you guys. Consider us connected and don't hesitate to reach out.
well, it's really super helpful. Really appreciate your time tonight, Braden. We're gonna have you back for part two, near future.
Yeah, you bet.
But everybody, please have a great night. Let's give it up for Braden. And Annette says she will be reaching out tomorrow about a project. So hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more of you.
Oh
Thanks.
yeah, it's always a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks so much for making me feel welcome. I hope that everybody enjoyed, guys. You know, and like I said, feel free to reach out. I'm so up for continuing the conversation. You know, all the love giving back to my Fordham community because we really are the best and brightest. So I want to hear what's going on in your heads for sure.
Great. Thank you. Everyone have a terrific night. And if you need Braden's contact information, it's here. If you didn't have time to write it down, reach out or find Braden on LinkedIn. Thank you.